So this is where we start doing some of our little circles, shapes of bricks and whatnot. So what I did, guys, first is concentrate on just that gray first. Okay, getting that one color in there. Right, and then I started at the back, and we tried to make these a little bit smaller. So then as you're coming out, then you're starting to make them a little bit bigger. So maybe we only see half of this one. We need a little bit of black. Save some time, eh? And what we're making, guys, is just a charcoal. We're not making it black. And what I was trying to do is make it very, very subtle with the gray. And then only in certain areas did I go back. See, it's too dark. Okay, only in certain areas did I go back and I just kind of gave it that little extra bit of darkness on certain areas so that it was maybe it was only like on the back of the little bricks. Okay, so we have some smaller ones here. Maybe we only see half of one because the brick is underneath the pot. Okay. And don't worry if it's not standing out enough for you right now. Like I said, that's where I went in and I just tweaked it just that little bit more with the darker gradients where I felt like I needed it just maybe around the back sides. See? So around the front, it doesn't have to be so dark. Just playing with your tones, right? And a little bit wider than circles. You don't really want them to be too circlish coming around the angles here. Okay, so that way you have a little bit more angle. I noticed on mine too, some of them were a little too round. Okay, because my whole road is going this way. So I want to keep the illusion of that angle. Okay, and then definitely not too dark, guys. You want the darkest ones to be out at the very end and the further out. Right? Just pop in a couple stones. And then you're definitely going to go a little bigger as we get out to the front here. A little bit of a space. Keep adding some floating medium so it's really nice and washy. Okay, big ones. Your way down, kind of bricklayering them. I mean, we only see half of this one. Okay. So that's what helps keep it more translucent too. If you're feeling it's too dark, maybe you need to add a little bit more floating medium to it. So then, especially over here where you want them to be kind of just peeking out. Okay. A little bit bigger. You gotta get all these little stones here first before we get our wheels put on. Okay. All the way around. Lots of floating medium, especially underneath the cart, because we just want them to be little hints of that stones underneath there. A little bit more subtle, very washed out. Maybe every third or fourth time I go and add just that little bit of black. Okay. More floating medium. Wipe it out if you're not happy. Some can be smaller in between, and some can be a little bit bigger. Really rustic, random. A little bit more gray in there. And we'll cut these ones right off. And then again, smaller. Set your back ones first. Maybe we only want half of one here. It's nice to have like stuff that fall off the edge of your canvas too. And then maybe a little bit more in between them. A little bit behind. A little bit bigger. Make them too small. We'll be here all day getting all these stones in, right? A little bit bigger. This side of the corner is a little bit closer to us. Then more floating medium. Sorry guys about the shadow. I'll get it figured out, I promise. Just almost like little clouds almost. This remind me of. Okay. And then like I said, every once in a while if you want to pick up that little bit of black and a little darker mixture, you know, if you have any of them that are just not showing up a little bit, sometimes I just went over and grabbed some just a little bit on the side or two, like wherever I wanted to stand out. Just found it was nicer to have just a couple dark edges, you know, here and there, maybe around the back sides. A little darker in some areas. You can always add more of it. It's harder to take it away, so it's better to be a little bit more translucent. And then you can always just pop in some random areas, just a little bit darker in spots. Am I moving too fast for you? You're good? Yeah, you're doing good? Keep playing. Just add little bits at a time if you want, like I said, and then come back and finish those areas later, just once you tried a couple of them if you want. You're working with the recording, then definitely stop it and then carry on and keep playing around. Alright, so we want to definitely have our little one script liner. And actually, sometimes even your number 2 guys will give you the tiniest little strokes too. Like I find sometimes my number 2, it will give me really, really tiny little strokes in there too. So don't be afraid to play around with your number 2 script liner too. And this is where I was trying to put the smallest little touch flowers in here, just to say that there was 5 little marks. And over on the edge. Make them yellow or whatever color you want. And I have no more bright yellow here. And we're going to put the smallest little tiniest. You can always do these flowers after you put the flower shop name in there too. And then I just went over and picked up a little bit of green, a little, you know, just enough to say you got both colors on your brush, guys, okay? Because it's so tiny. And then, like I said, you're just putting the illusion that it's a little flower here. These are the Idena pens, guys, that Donna Dewberry has. And they're double pens, so they have the smallest little fine line on the one side and then a nice big one on the other side. Okay, the trick of these, and not to wreck them, is don't try to mark on wet paint. Okay, so make sure it's really good and dry. We like to play with these, some of the pen designs on fabric. You can go around and detail all around your flowers with these little guys. They're really fun, and they're permanent, and they don't bleed like an actual Sharpie. Okay, so they're really, really nice markers. I don't have any in stock here, but definitely Donna Dewberry has them. And if you guys really, really want me to add them into my next order for you guys that are in Canada here, just let me know and I can always add them to my next order. Okay, so we definitely want to come in on a little bit of an angle and keep our line straight. All right, so try to just freehand it, guys. Just come in with a little marker because there's just no way you're going to ever be able to get these tiny little lines in here with a brush. So just make yourself a little bit easy life. Okay, and just put it in with a little tiny fine marker and just put that in there like that. Okay, so let's see, are we forgetting anything in our final? Oh yes, we have to put our wheels in now. Okay, so you can see that sort of some areas here around the side are a little bit thicker and then it comes a little bit thinner, and then my line gets a little bit fatter again coming all around the front. And then how I ended up making it more highlighted is adding that little bit of white in the side areas, okay? So we can do this in 2 steps, guys. Let's just put the black in first, let it dry, and then come back and skimp that little bit of highlight over it is the easiest way to do it. Okay, so again, hopefully you can see through your lines where your wheels were. And you can see that I give you this template here too. If you really want to go crazy and, you know, get lots of nice little iron work in there, you can always, you know, do these little heart shapes inside your wheel. That'll really help make it look a little more vintage. Okay, so if you happen to lose your pattern, like I really have, a good chance that you have to. I'm just going to grab some graphite and a pen. And then just mark them in good again. You can see where they go. And it's really easy to line it up to the bottom of your cart. Okay, big circle here. Lines here. And then a little half circle here underneath here. That way you don't have to worry about guessing. Okay, and I can still see my lines from my poles here. That's not a problem. So hopefully you didn't go too heavy coverage. But like I said, guys, if you feel like you need to put your pattern back on just to get placement for stuff, then I can line it up and get it put back in there again. Okay, so That way it's a little easier on you. Okay, so what I like to do is use my long number 1 or number 2 script liner. Okay, you can put a little bit of floating medium or moisture in your brush, and then that way you'll have a little bit more slip to get your brush to move all the way around your wheels. Okay, but not too runny. You're just making sure that your black that's been sitting here for too long is not too thick. Okay, test it out. See how much you can press on them. Okay, so we're going to just fill in this little circle here, half circle. Get us started here in the back. And then you're going to come up a little bit wide, okay? And then come down a little bit thinner on your chisel. Make this a little bit thinner. And you definitely want to make this back wheel smaller than your front wheel. It's further away. Okay, so nice flat edge there. Make it a little bit wide here. Come around in your circle. A little bit more work for those little hearts, especially when you get to the back wheel, because then they get all mixed up with the front wheel, and so it is a little bit tricky sometimes to get all those little heart shape in there for your iron. So just straight out, straight out. There's 4 of them here. I really don't see too much of the top one in there. Okay, so start up on your chisel, really light touches. And then as you're coming around in the front, you're going to push down on that script liner. And then come up slowly again up on your chisel. Like it's a little bit thinner at the very bottom of your wheel. Okay, so make the brush work for you guys. Okay, push down, get the width in the back. And then pull up on your chisel to come up around. These are rickety old wheels. They don't have to be totally round. Okay, but what really makes them have that look is having the thin at the top and a little bit thicker around the front and back. And then see how you feel about this one. I want to make this one just a little bit thicker here. Just here at the back. It's just a little bit smaller than your front wheel. Okay, and then we're going to put in our circle for our center. Okay, and then there's a little bit of an extra line here, so that'll come out defined a little bit more when we add some white into that. And make sure your spokes are just that little bit bigger than your back ones are. But technically, these ones go straight across from each other. So if you do this one, you can go straight across and do this one. These guys should line up together. And this one here is going to line up with this one. So I'm going to line up with this one. Oops. Picked up some thick paint there somewhere. Clean it up. It's gonna come straight through. So you're happy with it. Okay, so now we want to make sure that our white, if you've seen mine, it's got all kinds of pink little spots in it, and it's probably thick. Alright, so I'm just going to pop up some fresh white. And we only really need a tiny little bit, so just maybe just the end of your brush to pick up a little bit. Clean up my brush so I don't make a mess of my nice purple brushes. And then we're going to flip-flop ourselves into our white here just a little bit. So if your white is a little bit thick, you just want it just that slightly thin down, just with that tiniest amount of water, just so that it self-levels a little bit more. Okay, just that little bit, guys. Okay, so we just want a little bit of white and mostly black. Okay, so you can test it on your plate, and you'll see that you'll get that little bit of a streaky movement with your white. Okay, so hopefully you're getting more black than you are white. Okay. And this is where I came in, just around in the middle area. Okay, so get ready to look up and down. And you're going to just wisp it in there and put pressure the same width as what you started off with before. And then just kind of whips that in and around. Okay, so something that you just can't go over too many times for this little trick. Okay, and then again, I want to do it in front of the wheel. Okay, on the outside of the wheel. Yeah, that little bit of darkness in the front. Okay. Little tiny bit of white. And just barely any highlights for the front. I definitely want that to be a little bit darker. And just in the front. Okay. Then we're going to put a little bit of a C curve in the very back. There's a very subtle light gray colors, right? Hopefully you guys can see that. And then we're going to do another little circle in the very front. Okay. Just a little half circle is all you need. Okay, you can always put that in there with a little bit of a white on the corner, like we were doing all this floating and shading. You can always get like a number 6 or a number 8 and put in that little half circle like that too. Okay. Not too bright like I just did. And darken that a little bit. Right, so you see how that looks like a little extra little knob coming around the outside. Right, holding the wheel on. Okay, so now we want to just go and pick up a little bit of black. And again, because we're making really fine line, guys, you want to thin it down to almost like curly Q. Okay? So that you get those really fine little lines. Okay, for our strings. And then we're going to add our handles there as well. Okay, so the bar in the back, guys, goes behind the tarp. Okay, so it just comes up behind and peeks out the top. Okay, so we'll start off with our back ones here. Okay, so there's just a little bit of a line here. And then coming all the way down. to the corner. And then this one here can go right on top. And so go right up and all the way down to the corner. Erase that a little bit. Supposed to go in the corner more. Okay, so right in the corner of there. It might be a little bit off here. Wait, crooked. Before it dries, I'm just going to kind of dilute it a little bit. You don't mind to have this pole a little bit thicker than your back pole. But again, if you feel like you went too fat, okay, you see how I erase stuff. And just keep wiping it out on the towel and erase it out. And so maybe it's easier to paint straight going sideways. Pull away from you. Okay, so this has to look like it's coming out the corner here. And then up underneath and out the top. Not too long. Okay, so we're going to add like little balls on there too. And then this one here is coming out of this corner. Okay, so just flick that in there. And this can go right through. Okay, so this is where you want a little bit more paint on the edge. And I just kind of tried to make like little balls at the top. So little teardrop kind of shapes on the top. If you feel like you made your stems too long, then just start at the top of your little stick. And then that'll help make them look a little shorter. Okay, little teardrop shapes at the top. Okay, and then we also have to put in our little stand here too. Okay, so it's gonna just come out a little bit thicker underneath the cart and then just come out in a little bit of a point. Now you can make this brown if you want to. Actually, my original is brown, but you can always make it iron too if you really wanted to. Okay, just because we have the black in here already. Put our little stand in there. And again, I've lost my pattern from my handles. Okay. Line it up. Okay, so it's the same one I used. Okay, so we just want to add placement again, guys, if you lost it. Okay. These little lines are very intricate and tiny. Okay, so we want to make sure we know where they are. Because this will really make it look crooked if you don't have them in the right place. We could have done that at the same time as our wheels. Okay, that's better. And then we're going to use our little liner brush again. Like I said, I like the long script liner. You can use the smaller brush if you feel like you paint easier with it. Okay, so it does make it look interesting when you have a little bit of thick areas. Okay, and then a little bit of thin areas. Right, so if it's easier to get those put in there first, put them in there. Remember, this one's going to be smaller than the other one. Okay, around, flip around, up on your chisel so it's really nice and thin. Then come back into your center and work your way around the scroll here. Okay, a little bit wider back here. And then comes really thin underneath. Okay, a little bit wide. And just work your way in slowly, piece it together. Okay, so we definitely want to have like little balls here on the side. So we want to have that small thin area and then that little tiny little ball. Okay. And then the same thing we did with the wheels after, just to make them stand out a little bit more. We just go and touch that little bit of white to add that little bit more of a highlight. Okay, on them. So just that little bit of dirtiness. And just touch the tops of the handles. Okay, just that little tiny bit. And then just a little tweak of it, just along the handle here. Okay, just very, very subtle sometimes, that's all it takes. And you can even just touch those little bit of bits just on your little balls here too, if you want to add just a little bit more of a shine highlights on them. Okay, especially right here, it's in a dark area. Or just a little touch of white, dirty, black bits there. Okay. And then the rest is all about really adding more shading. You just want to make sure that you have those little tweaky areas of like underneath the tires here. You know, you want to fix those areas up a little bit more. Add a little bit more shading in spots. Okay, definitely adds to it as well. And little dark areas here and there, especially, you know, around the edges. Separate things a little bit more. Especially back here, around your cart, around your little plants. Okay, so I definitely want to add some shading behind here. A little bit. Just with a soft charcoal and lots of floating medium. Okay, make sure you add some behind your plants. That helps to make them stand out a little bit more. Okay, even under here, adding a little bit more gray. Okay, so it's with a little bit of a wash. You can see that it's very translucent. And it's just enough to dirty underneath the flowers here a little bit, so that you're just adding that little bit more shading underneath them. Okay, I think we need one more here. in the little area. Yeah. So wherever you feel like you just need that little extra pop, any areas that aren't defined enough, you can always add a little bit of that burnt umber in there. Shade behind your canopy a little bit more. Okay, so add some more floating medium in there with the burnt umber. Okay, so if it's not standing out enough here, definitely want to add a little bit more depth in there. Maybe it looks like the shadow on the wall. Okay, anywhere that you feel like you need a little bit more. So I was trying to get all the shading in a lot ahead of time with you this time compared to my first one where I tend to add a lot of the shading after. But I was trying to get ahead of the game a little bit more the second time around. Okay, so again, underneath. And you can even add like a little bit of gray and brown together because that helps to give it that little bit more gray, dirty look. Okay, browny kind of gray. Make sure lots of translucent floating medium in there. Okay, and then we're going to come up this time. We're going to come up underneath, but I want you to shade underneath this corner here. We're going to add just that little bit more right on the corner underneath in this little peak here. And you're adding shadow right on top of the green. Okay. And then I added another little piece of shadowing just right here along the edge to make it look like there's a bit of a hole in there holding everything together. So try to keep that really nice and straight. That goes right to the point. Okay, so that's how I made that look a little bit whiter. I went a little bit high on my green. You can always add a little bit of fresh white in there and just make a little bit of a line with your chisel or with your liner brush. Okay, so this is the little extras that I forgot about here. This makes it look a little bit like your poles, something's holding it up. Okay, all these little extra little details, right? Makes a difference. Straighten that out. Whoops. Too much. Always straighten things up with your shadowing. Come up behind it. Soften it a little tiny bit. Getting excited, guys. Getting hungry. Bruce was having problems with the barbecue. It wasn't going right, so dinner wasn't ready earlier. Alrighty, so that helps. And clean that up. Okay, and then I also added more shading here along the ends. Okay, right along the straight line here. Just subtle. And then you're going to do reverse shading. You're doing it on both sides. And then I added just a little subtleness of dirtiness just along the very back area. And you see how subtle that is, just that little bit to dirty that white a little bit at the very back. All right. And then also under here, okay, add a little bit more floating medium. Very, very, very subtle all the way across the bottom here underneath. So just playing with your floating medium, guys. If it's too dark, just add more floating medium. It'll thin it out. If it's too much floating medium, then it's going to be too wet. You'll have to dry it a little bit. Okay, so just see how that makes it really look flipped over the edge now. If your windows are too white, they may not look too off too, so you can always add just a little bit more of that shading. And now that we can see how much is showing through, so you just want that little bit more of blueness going on. Always add a bit more. Okay, and wipe it off. And even little bits of brown down here underneath. Like again, you can add little bits of shadowing on your wall, okay, because this is going to portray a shadow. And just usually one side, or but you can just make a little bit of a dirty spot underneath. So then that way it looks like a shadow on the wall. With little extras. Okay, so it softens that a little tiny bit. You want your corner of your wall to recede a little tiny bit more. You can add just that little tiny bit of black in with your brown. And then you gotta come really, really thin, guys, in the very, very middle to make that wall stand out. Just that little tiny bit more. Okay. And then bring out some of that darkness a little bit more to soften it if it's too strong of a line. And you could just doesn't look like it's receding if it's too strong of a line. Okay, soften it out, bring it out a little bit. Around your doors a little bit. Wherever you feel like you need that little bit more pop. Lighten up this area. I gotta bring out some yellow ochre again to fix that. But we can just put some white on there for now. Lighten it up, and then I can go over it with some little bit of yellow ochre again. Fix that little spot there. Alrighty.
Really cute, Mandy.
Thank you.
Love it.
I hope you guys have fun with it, and I hope that you'll share your finished versions in the group with everybody. All right, or if you have any questions, like I said, don't be shy. send me what you got going on, and I can give you some suggestions more how to fix something. Or
Is there a reason, Mandy, that you don't do the floor and everything first and then put the pattern of the cart on?
well, I just find that because the white is so hard once it's dirty to get it back white again.
That's what I was wondering. It might not cover, right?
Yes, you'll have to fight with that white more, right? So this is why sometimes I like to work around my pattern, and you know, especially with the two opposites of the colors, with the yellow ochre and the gray tones.
Yes.
Right? You keep things a lot more separate.
Makes sense.
Definitely there is some other designs that I have done that. You can do it either way. But like I said, I find it does save a bit of time when you work around your patterns.
Okay.
But yeah, you play with it however you feel. If you want to try and get all that background done. And then paint it all white.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. If you guys have any other questions for me. And unmute yourself.
There.
There we go.
Yeah, I've got way more cobblestones to make.
Yeah, I figured I would move it along pretty quick for you guys.
Yeah, and I gotta make all my flowers bigger, but that's okay.
Yeah, you have to go a little bit bigger.
Because my canvas is bigger too, so I gotta make all the flowers more.
Yeah, but good start though. At least you got your cobblestones in before your wheels. Perfect. Yeah, good idea. Now, how did you do, Shelley? Did you get a lot of it done here tonight? Did you cat up?
I had to redo my floor, but because of my canvas, I couldn't trace my cart onto the paper, so I kind of winged it, and so now I kind of added things that shouldn't be there.
It's okay, ad-lib, make it your own. Definitely. So
I'll start the floor tomorrow because it wasn't working, so I just painted over it all.
Yeah, well, that's the worst case scenario. Just paint it all gray and then start again, adding a little bit more shadows. But try to do it very translucent first. Add lots and lots of floating medium in there, and then slowly build it in. Like you're better to see them really, really faint like this, and then just tweak in around the edges here and there to make some of them darker.
Okay.
Right, so it's okay to have some of them very, very faint and just the illusion of, and then just a few darker. Yeah. Perfect. All right, I can't wait to see you guys finished results.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Karen, thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. We definitely did pretty good on staying on time, but we definitely needed the 2 days.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.